can't force it. Until you truly accept God into your heart, you can read the Bible and you can quote scripture and you can remember stuff, but you can truly tell if someone has accepted
100%
Christ into their life.
Well, welcome back to The Uncomfortable Truth. Not sure what episode we are on today, but we have got a special guest, Daniel Carmical. And did I say that right?
You did.
All right, perfect. Well, we're going to get into Daniel's story, and I'm going to let Shaun kick us off and introduce Daniel, and we're going to just find out more about him and see how the show goes.
Well, we're just super excited to have you here. And so I wanted to just tell y'all a little bit about what I like about, what I've always admired about Daniel. I've always thought he had the coolest last name on the planet.
Yeah.
Carmical is
that's a good name.
That's a pretty, I don't know if it's I don't know where I get, I think there was a show one time, it's called with Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Sweet Home Alabama.
And they got like the Carmichael plantation.
Yep, you're right.
There, and it's like her fake family, but she actually lived in a trailer.
Yeah.
And but the Carmicals were the legit. Yeah, so
I remember that.
Yeah, so Daniel might be related to them somehow.
And my Carmichael is spelt a little different.
Is it?
So my whole life, when I say my last name, they spell it out, and I'm like, no, that's not right.
Not like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So I was just thinking about like back to the first time that I ever met you, and I believe it was through UPS, if I'm not mistaken. And Daniel, he works for United Parcel Service, a.k.a. UPS. And one cool thing about Daniel is today is his birthday.
Oh,
yes.
So today,
happy birthday, man!
40.
Yeah,
number 40.
Yes,
the big,
dude. I just flipped over 40 a month ago.
Yeah.
A month ago today.
Yeah,
or yesterday. Yeah,
I think I'm still 22, and sometimes I feel 40, sometimes I feel 50.
Yeah, I'll tell you what,
that's
man.
awesome, man. Congratulations!
Thank you.
Officially over the hill, isn't that what they say?
Yeah. It's hard.
I thought that was 50.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah. Time is so fleeting. It just flies. And I remember whenever I turned 40, I'm 7 years older than you, and I remember turning 40 and just thinking, my goodness. Where did my life? Because I had remembered my dad turning 40, and it just goes so fast. But man, we just we're excited to have you here, and we just want to learn a little bit about you and in your life. Can you tell us like where you were born and where you were raised and
Sure.
Let's talk about that.
I was born and raised in Monticello, Arkansas.
Okay.
Until I was 10 years old. My mother got transferred to Virginia for 2 years with her work, and then her company brought her to Longview. So I've been in Longview since I was 12.
12.
And definitely consider Longview home, but
Where'd you go to school?
a Pine Tree.
Okay, Pine Tree grad. 03.
3.
Okay,
Yeah.
same as me. I did not realize that we were the same age.
Yeah.
I thought you were a little younger than me. I don't know if it's the great beard or what it is.
It's starting to gray a little bit. Yeah.
That's awesome. So grew up here from 12 on.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about growing up. Mom and dad in the house.
Divorced parents.
Yeah.
So when I was 10, we moved to Virginia. That's actually when my mom and stepdad got a divorce. So I was raised by a single mom pretty much. I mean, my father was definitely in the picture. We'd go visit him. One of my favorite places, going back to Arkansas. We still have our family farm there. So and my dad passed away about 5 years ago, so I haven't been back as much, but it's still nice to go home.
Yeah.
Raised by me and my older brother, who's 4 years older than me. Mom raised us, and he actually, when he graduated, moved back to Arkansas, went to college, and now he's a banker.
Awesome. So went to Pine Tree, playing sports in high school.
I was on the swim team, played football.
Cool.
Everyone always wanted me to play basketball because I was tall, but it just wasn't my thing.
Yeah. Well, what after high school? What happened after that?
Well, after high school, I became a father very quickly. I was a teenage dad, and that's that's when it was time to get to work.
Yeah,
So
man.
I never got the college experience, never got the going out, letting your hair down, I guess.
Yeah.
It was,
Get to work.
it was. And so,
How old were you?
let's see, I guess I was 18 when I found out that my daughter was on the way. But
Yeah.
I was 19. Her mother was 18 when Kelsey was born. And at the time, I was working for the Maid-Rite company here in Longview, the Dr. Pepper company, and worked there for a little while. And then my then wife's dad worked at UPS, and he was like, I can get you on, it's a good job. So for about 2 years, I would work at Dr. Pepper from 8 to 5, and then I would go into UPS from 6 to 10 at night.
Wow.
Because you kind of have to start off part-time at UPS. And did that for about 2 years, and then eventually got on full-time. And
been there ever since.
This June will be 19 years.
Awesome.
It's a great company. I mean,
It is.
You just always hear about them having pretty solid retirement. And I mean, my goodness, just in my lifetime, it just amazes me how much they've blown up, and I know a lot of that has to do with Amazon.
You always hear, back in the day, things were different, and it's like that with any company. But yeah, what UPS is now from when I started, it's so much different, especially with Amazon, the fluctuation. This week, you may work 12-hour days every day. The next week, it may be 8. So but it's a great company.
Sure. So one of the ways that I got to talking to Daniel about coming on to the podcast is I was trying to beg him to stop delivering Amazon packages to my house.
Cat has me just put them on the neighbor's porch.
Yeah.
I don't see them.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. I saw a commercial or something the other day, and the husband opened the door, and it was the UPS guy, and he was like, "Get out of here, man."
I've delivered to places before, and the husband or sometimes the wife will open the door, and they're not happy to see me.
Really?
I mean, I've seen couples get in arguments with me standing right there because,
well,
it's supposed to be done.
Funny, quick little backstory is our daughter, I think she was 13, and she just thought it was like free to get on Amazon and just order stuff, you know? And these packages kept on showing up, and they were for London, our youngest daughter.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, what the heck? Well, somehow it was linked to our oldest daughter's account. And Madison calls and was like, where's this $380 worth of charges? Like, what the heck? Are y'all like putting this, they're all to Amazon, and it was London.
That sounds about right.
I think a lot of people think like that.
Yeah.
You just click a button. It's nothing.
You don't even have to pay for it.
That's actually where their business model really took off when they came up with the one-click purchase.
Yeah.
I forget what the stats are, but it
just took
sales went up. Yeah, because you don't think about pulling out your card and typing in the number. I think that was kind of a buffer for a lot of people. Like, I don't want to mess with all that.
Right. Yeah, when they refined that process and had, your card on file, and you just hit the button and you don't even have to think about it, I would imagine that just skyrocketed.
Be there in a few days. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Have you ever been chased? Have you ever been bit by a dog or anything like that?
I have. The longer you work there, you figure things out.
Yeah.
And now if there's a bad dog, I won't even attempt the delivery. And UPS doesn't want you to.
Mm-hmm.
If they show any type of aggression, anything, don't deliver, bring it back to the building. Then on the other hand, you want to get that truck empty. That way you're not back there tomorrow.
Right.
But yeah, I've been bit, and we've had some drivers we had a guy that got his arm broke about maybe 2 years ago. And I say arm broke. It was a bone broke in his hand, but yeah, big
pit bull or something.
Yeah, something like that. I think
Yeah.
what's the almost looks like a German Shepherd dog that the police have.
Yeah.
Cane Corso, I believe it's called.
Yep.
Yeah, one of those jumped up and got him, and had to have surgery, and then the surgery got an infection and had to have another surgery. He was out for almost a year for a dog bite. Yeah.
Wow. It's funny because I never heard the name of that dog until yesterday, and I was listening. I saw it something on a short I saw, and it said that they're like pressure, like per bite, like kind of like it's the second highest dog in the world when it bites you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Crushing bones.
It's like five or 600 like pounds per
square
second or
inch
something like that.
Yeah.
It was just, and they were because this guy, he asked him, he's like, "What is the baddest dog on the planet?" You know, and there's one dog called a Kangal dog that is the number one. It's 700 and something, bite per square inch or whatever. But they said number two was what's it called?
Cane Corso, I believe. And I think there's a few different breeds on that, but the one you see here is looks like a slick down German Shepherd.
Yeah.
And it's like a Velociraptor. They can jump 6-foot fences. They're nuts.
Wow.
So
Wow.
when I see one of those, I'm not getting it.
I bet you've had some pretty crazy stories, delivering some stuff,
It's
I can only
interesting.
imagine.
Yeah. Oh, I could. Yeah. I can only imagine, from the people who answer the door to the dogs to the, you name it.
You see some stuff.
Yeah. That's funny. So you were just kind of going back to a couple years ago. From what I gather, were you raised in a Christian home?
Yes, but I would say it was a mild Christian home. Of course, my mother is a believer, but we didn't go to church on Sunday. I had great parents. My grandmother I always remember her going to church, and you'd hear singing little Christian hymns out on the porch. And, as a kid, I remember that, but you're not thinking about that as a kid.
Sure.
So really as an adult is when I started going to church. And even then it would be, some friends invite you to go, you go for a couple of weeks, couple of months, and then I got something to do this weekend. And then, next thing you know, you stop going. And so I've had Christ taught to me my whole life, but it's just kind of been watered down, I guess you would say.
Sure.
Right.
You were telling me about 2 years ago, something kind of snapped. And can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. And I can't tell you what it was. Well, I can. It was God. It was the Holy Spirit. But, once again, my whole life, I've known right from wrong. I've been at a church. I would always consider myself a good guy. Do the right things. I've always kind of thought, even if you're not a Christian, if you just read the Bible, it's a great owner's manual to life. Like, be kind to people, forgive. And so my whole life, I've just kind of straddled the fence as far as Christianity. I've been a good guy, but I've never read the Bible. I can't really pinpoint it, but about 2 years ago, I just started thinking about God a lot more, and like almost like, why are we here? What are we doing? And I like getting into the kind of the science side of it. The human body is phenomenal. The way our body works, creation, all of that stuff. And I'm like, there's no way that was just an explosion in space. And we came out of some bacteria and some hot water and evolved into a lizard. And now all of a sudden, if you really get into the biology of your eyes, your smell, your skin, everything, it's so complicated that
hard to deny.
There has to be a creator. And so that's always been in my mind, back and forth, playing with it. And I don't know, about 2 years ago, I wanted to know more about the Bible. And of course I had a Bible, but it was one, I think my grandmother gave my parents when they first got married. So it's the old, thou
King James.
Yeah. And I, it was dusty on a shelf. I never touched it. So I was like, I need to go get a Bible. So I went to the, was it Mardell's, the store here, and didn't tell anybody I was doing it. Didn't post it online. Hey, I got my first Bible. Like, I went and I spent an hour in there looking at different ones, reading different versions. It was just, I couldn't wait to get off work and get home to read it. And it was almost like if you find that your favorite show or something on TV, like you can't wait to just get home, get your stuff done, sit down and watch it. And I couldn't wait to have some time just to read it. And I don't know if you'd say that sounds corny or what, but something was drawing me to it. And I don't know what it was. It's not that I had some friends that were trying to pull me. It's not that.
That's what I was going to ask. Was there anything that you can kind of think about that was going on in your life at the time that was just pulling you or making you seek the Lord? And another question is, have you ever been a reader before that? Like, did you read a lot of books and stuff?
No.
Okay.
It's funny. I have a lot of books
Yeah.
because I like, I'll see a book and I'm like, man, that's cool. I want to read that. And I get it. And you just get busy in life. I mean,
Right.
with the way I work, if I get home at 7:00 at night, that's a good night. So I guess you could say I've never had time to sit down and read, and it's hard for me to sit still.
Mhm.
I like to be going and doing stuff. So the thought of sitting down and reading for a few hours, that I got stuff to do. I can't do that.
Right.
And
I'm the exact same way, and that's when I kind of turn to audiobook because I like when I'm on the road. It's easy to
Yeah.
audiobook or podcast or.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of that?
all day,
Yeah.
I listen to podcasts. I have the Bible on Audible, and actually just started listening to Romans. But yeah, I'll listen to that, and I kind of break it up because I found that if I sit there and listen to the Bible for just hours at work, next thing you know, I kind of get tuned out.
Mhm.
Just I get busy at work looking for stuff, and then I'm like, I don't remember what was said the last 10 minutes. So I found that if I listen to it in sections, maybe 30 minutes, an hour, and then stop,
Right.
I retain a lot more than just trying to play it through
Yeah.
and listen 8 hours a day.
So out of that, like a couple years ago, you got your Bible and you just had a hunger for it. Just God was just putting a hunger to read the Bible and learn more about Him.
It was, and once again, I can't pinpoint it. It's not. I have some wonderful people in my life, buddies of mine. Paul, Sloan,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always
devout Christians.
I've always really looked up to them, and you can tell, and it's not because they're coming to you every time you get around each other. Hey, let me tell you about Mark 8, or the Bible says that. You can just strictly tell by their actions about how they treat their family, their friends, other people. They're true Christian men, and I've always looked up to them because of that, and kind of wanted to be more like them. But I don't know. It's you can't force it until you truly accept God into your heart. You can read the Bible and you can quote scripture and you can remember stuff, but you can truly tell if someone has accepted
100%
Christ into their life.
100%. I always think about when you said you can't force it. I thought about there was a guy in Longview here forever that would stand, and I know you've seen him being around, that would hold up the sign and tell everybody they're going to hell, if they don't accept the Lord Jesus, and that's a very bold thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, in my mind, I'm like, is he driving more people away from Christ, or is he bringing more people to Christ? And I feel like I'm with you. I feel like you can't force it. You have to shine the love of Jesus into the lives of those around you. And just like you said, Sloan and Paul, these great friends of yours who are devout Christians, they've just loved you. And you've seen that, and that's been an attractive thing to you. And for whatever reason, a couple of years ago, if God put that void on your heart or whatever, you were like, "Hey, I got to change something. Something's not right here."
Yeah.
And so, I think that's pretty awesome. I think that's an awesome testimony, and it's also a testament to how important it is to love people, to love your friends, and to serve and help them, and to shine the light of Christ into their life. And so I'm sure you're I know I'm eternally grateful for the friends in my life, and like my brother and people that are in my life that have inspired me. And I also want you to know, hearing your story inspires me, and I know it's going to resonate and inspire the listeners, and that's what it's all about, man. I think a lot of us think that we have to get out there and hold up a sign and tell everybody they're going to hell, but that's not necessarily the case.
It's your actions.
Yeah.
The old saying, your actions speak louder than words. You can hang around somebody for a little while and you can kind of see their character and see I mean, I can talk to you about anything, but if I act a certain way later, or you said a while ago, seek the Lord. That has stood out to me more than anything in the last year and a half. And it's, if you seek the Lord, your life will change. And I could tell over the last few months that if I've kind of been getting frustrated lately, or things aren't quite going right, or my mind's not quite going right, just because you accept Christ, you still struggle with
Life. Yeah.
sin, lust, greed, slow to forgive, anger. I mean,
Pride.
all that stuff doesn't just go away.
Mm-hmm.
And when those things would start creeping back up, I'd find myself getting agitated at work over nothing, getting mad at a friend because of this or that, or he didn't call me back, and then I would start to think, when was the last time I read my Bible? When was the last time I talked to God?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean, saying, Lord, I don't feel good. Please make me feel better. You don't have to talk to God just when you need something. I mean, you don't just call your friends when you're in a bind. Call them, check on them.
That's right.
And when you seek the Lord, your life will change. And I can tell when you pull back and you're not in the Word, when you're not praying, when you're not just having conversations with your friends about it, you will start to slowly fall back.
Slide back.
Yeah, and it's incredible how your life will change.
It's our human nature, to be human, and as humans, we're sinful creatures, and we're going to slide back into that sin if we're not connected. We've got to be holding on to the vine, so to speak. I asked you about reading, and if it was something that you did prior, because my faith journey is similar to that. In that, you mentioned that you can't force it. You can't force it, and it just kind of happens. And then it's like once you accept Him and you surrender your life to God and you decide you're on this path, then you can't stop it. Mm-hmm. Like it's like it's like something that it's unexplainable. The Lord, the whole time that you were getting to that point, God was seeking you. He was continuing to seek you, and he finally got you. He finally reined you in, and again, once that happens, like for my journey, I never read it. I might have read a book in junior high or high school that they forced me to read.
You had to.
I had to. I didn't have books. I had some reference books on the Bible. I grew up in the church. But when I was about, 35 years old, God just like pulled me off of this Obie worldly path and put me on His path. And it knocked me down to the ground, and I had to figure out how to get the wheels turning again. And it was just I was just hungry for learning more about Him. I bet, that was 5 years ago. I've probably read, 50 books since then, and 90% of those books being something faith-based, I just want to learn more. I want to figure out how I can impact people's lives more for His glory, and I just never. Before that, it was all about me, and it was all about how I can impact my life for my glory and my recognition and praise and all of that. And I believed in God. I knew He loved me, but it was always, I felt like at the time, and at least in my mind, I felt like it was more about me than it was about pointing people to Him with my life. Yeah. And so it's just so cool when He gets a hold of us, because you're right. You can't, like, the actions start to speak louder than the words, and you just start living this new journey, So, I mean, since then, what would you say has God kind of revealed to you in your reading of the scriptures and in your prayer life? And has he revealed to you kind of a newfound purpose, for what life looks like going forward?
I believe it's in the book of Luke. I don't remember exactly what it says, but it's pretty much a person that's not sick doesn't need a physician. And so we can all sit in here and talk about faith and Jesus and how it improves our lives and how we need it, but we're saved. So,
Right.
I mean, we can talk about it. It's a great conversation, but the people that need to hear about it, or like a physician sees sick people, we need to find the unsaved people. And that it doesn't have to be the guy standing on the side of the road holding the sign that says you're going to hell. It can just be a friend, a coworker, a spouse, a neighbor. And you start doing that, almost like throwing a pebble into the pond. You start putting that out there, and those waves will affect somebody. And so as far as my side of it, it's actually putting it into use and being practical with it. I mean, we can talk about it. It can sound pretty, but what are you doing about it? Are you being a disciple? Are you spreading the word and being intentional? Not just, hey, come to my church, but just getting it out there.
Yeah. There was a, gosh, I'll never forget this. My cousin gave the eulogy at my grandmother's funeral. And whenever he was younger at the time, right now he lives in like Paris, France. And anyway, he came in and from out wherever he was at the time, and to give my grandmother's eulogy. And whenever he was younger, my grandmother would have him go to the library and look for books for her to read. And she had read so many thousands of books that she started putting a purple dot like on the bottom of page 27.
Yeah.
Okay. And so she would say, before you pick out some books for me, check page 27, make sure there's not a purple dot at the bottom of each book at the library. And he took that and he did such a great thing with it. He said, from a delivering, the difference that you make in people's lives. And she was like, he said, no, in Taylor, he was like, my grandmother, left a purple dot on each and everybody in this room, and that's why y'all are here.
Yeah.
And I just thought that it made me think about you saying, hey, it's like a ripple effect. You just don't know, and the people that you encounter each day. And one of the things that I do is I pray every morning, and I just ask God to put people in my path and give me the opportunity to reach them for Him, for Christ, and to make a difference in the people. So you're exactly right. And, you just never know who you're going to run into, and you can be you can have a testimony, share your testimony with people and show the love of Jesus to people that you encounter every single day, whether it's in your career. It's not about, holding up a sign on the side of the road and scaring people away,
And being intentional. I listened to your podcast with your daughter a few weeks ago, or when that was. And she said something in there that before you would drop them off at school, you would pray over them. And dude, that stuck with me all day long. That you ask her what she remembers the most or what impacted her, and something small that you just kind of did. Whether it was a bad morning, you may have wanted to strangle them before you dropped them off at school.
Sure.
You still, and here's this many years later, and you ask her what you remember the most or what was impactful, and that came out.
It's pretty powerful, man.
It is, and it
kind of made me emotional. And you just don't. What's funny is at the time, I didn't even realize that I knew that it was the right thing to do, but I didn't realize the impact it was making until that podcast.
Well, because you were doing it not to make her remember that. You were doing it because that was what God put in your life.
Yeah, it was conviction there. Yeah.
And it'll show you what can come out of that years down the road.
Yeah.
I like that. So that was
what's the Bible verse? Raise them in the way that, how does that go? Basically, they won't falter from, whenever you're shining God and you're shining, Jesus into their life, they won't stray from that. They'll always come back to it.
They may stray, but they'll come
always come back to it. What do you feel like is the greatest trial and tribulation you've ever experienced, like in your life, in your lifetime? And how do you think that if you were not a Christian at that time or not a believer, how do you feel like that would have impacted you differently if you had been? Is there anything that just stands out to you?
Just life. I mean, my dad passing away 4 years ago.
Were y'all pretty close?
Yes, but now that he's gone, I wish I would have went to Arkansas every weekend. You always think that there's time. Yeah, me and my dad had a great relationship. But
how old was your father?
He was 68.
Pretty young.
It was, and he worked for Cisco his whole life, so he was in and out of restaurants in South Arkansas. So it was fried food, and he was overweight and was diabetic, and it caught up to him. And that's, on a side note, that's why I try to eat healthy. I was at the gym this morning, and there's so many times over the last 4 years, my daughter graduating or her going off to college, or just things that I think my dad would just be grinning ear to ear. I mean, just us building the cabins out in Jefferson, just different things in my life that, he'd be proud of. And I can't share that with him. So with that thought, I want to make sure that I'm around for my daughter and my grandkids. And so that almost motivates me to stay healthy, stay fit, stay mentally strong. But I mean, as far as hard times, it's just life, 19 being a dad. And
that's a tough one.
Yeah. You don't have a clue what to do. And fortunately, something sparked in me, and Kelsey's mother's fantastic. We have a good relationship, and both hard workers. So we've been able to lead by a good example. And if I could go back, I would definitely, I wish I would have got involved in the church, and I wish I would have got saved earlier so I could instill more of that in my daughter.
Sure.
And fortunately, she had great friends, she was in and out of church just about her whole life, but it wasn't necessarily me taking her. And I think I told you the other night, now that she's off at college, I'm getting ready to sell my house, and she took just about everything out of her room that she wanted. So I'm going in there getting the leftover stuff out of this and that. And one of her drawers, I found a Bible, and below it was a notebook. And I'm like, and I remember the Bible, and I open it up, and it's highlighted everywhere and underlined. And I pick up the notebook, and it's just pages and pages of notes from church. And
wow,
I had no idea. And then I asked her about it, and it was a friend of mine. She has a daughter that's Kelsey's age, and I remember she would take them to church. And so Kelsey was getting what she needed. It just wasn't necessarily me taking her.
Isn't it cool how God can use our kids, to just allow life to kind of come full circle, and even without our knowing,
it's pretty awesome.
It is amazing.
And something I've always told my daughter, you ask about difficult times, and I can't think of anything major that's just took me down to my knees in life. But as she's gotten older, you're about to go off to college, and I was talking to her about alcohol and drinking, and I'm like, baby, if I take the 10 dumbest things I've ever done in my life, 9 of them involve alcohol. So, I mean, if you're going to, I know you're in college, just be smart with it. Don't drink at all.
Yeah.
But if I would have had Christ in my life, then 9 of the dumbest things I've done would have probably been eliminated, because I wouldn't be out drinking to the point I get drunk. There's a difference in having a beer or two with your buddies if you're fishing than seeing if you can finish a case. It's
stacking up the pyramid.
Yeah, and so you look back, and it's like, if I would have just accepted, and it's not that Christ came into my life. He's always been there. It's, I was too stubborn, or I'll do it later. I'll go to church. New Year's resolution, I'll start going to church in January. Whatever, life gets busy. and he's always there. You have to seek him. And when you start making an intentional effort to find Christ, and it's amazing how much it'll change your life. Like, he's sitting there waiting on everybody. You just got to put forth a little effort.
Yeah.
And just being a good person or doing what you're supposed to do or being a good dad, a good husband, a good coworker, it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And you think you got a good life, and you accept Christ, and your world will change.
Yeah. I have, I've watched so much content over the last 5 years, and I've never heard one time where somebody yelled out or cried out to God where he didn't show up. I've never heard one person say, he just didn't show up for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like he's always there, and he always shows up, and that's it's pretty cool just to see how he showed up in your daughter's life, and
It is amazing.
it really is.
I don't want to beat a dead horse with just kind of the spark maybe that caused you to kind of surrender, your life over to the Lord. If there was, but when it, like, for me, it was like something that I realized that I couldn't do on my own, and there was something there, and I mean, for you, like, was there like a situation in your life that you were like, this isn't something that I can do, or has there been maybe a situation in your life where you're like, I can't do this on my own. I can't fix this. This is completely out of my control. Like, Shaun and I are both kind of control freaks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we like to be in control. We like, and we all know that control is an illusion. It's. I say we all know that. If you don't, you're going to figure it out one day, because it is very much an illusion.
I've seen the OCD side in Shaun.
Yeah,
just through work and all. He likes to have his ducks in a row.
He does, and I'm very cut from the same cloth when it comes to that.
You haven't been in Obie's garage.
Yeah,
Yeah, everything is just compartmentalized.
the flatheads and the Phillips are lined up. And,
I got it all. I know where to go if I need something. That's for sure. And I could actually point you to it, and you could find it. So that's our dad is the total opposite of us. He'll empty out the whole bed of his truck finding what he's looking for, but he knows it's there. But I just wonder if there's been a time in your life, maybe pre on God's train. I use that metaphor a lot because that's just the way that I feel. Like, I feel like that I was on my train going full steam ahead, and God flipped the switch, and all of a sudden I was on his train. Yeah. And I'm not going full speed ahead because I'm broken. Mm-hmm. I'm broken. Because when we accept Christ and we begin that sanctification process, everything that we're doing wrong boils to the top. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. What did that look like for you? Was he revealing things that, to you, and is he still revealing things to you that you feel like maybe you're falling short in and that you need to get right with? Yes.
And I'll try to keep the answer somewhat short. I mean, it'd take me an hour to explain it out, but yes, but the things you do, I mean, we fall short every day. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like your guilt and remorse when you are a follower and you accept Christ. For me, it hits me so much harder. If I'm not doing X, Y, Z, if I popped off at somebody at work or to a customer, or maybe to my daughter, I was a little short on the phone with her because accountability. And back to the kind of what sparked me, I don't know, but I've been in and out of the churches, like I said, and I won't name some of the churches, but I've been to some of the very big, nice churches in Longview, and my favorite part is they would have pins in the back of each seat and like a comment card or whatever, and I could make my grocery list on the card. And the preacher was fantastic. It had nothing to do with the church. It was just I was not engaged. It wasn't clicking to me, and maybe a year or so ago at our gym, some friends we had made up there, Crystal and Todd, became good friends with them, and they went to a bigger church in Longview, and this guy started working out in our gym, big black guy, bald head, muscled up. I mean, Brother David's a big dude.
Yeah.
And you'd hear him kind of singing, he'd have his earbuds in, and it was always some hymn or some, and every now and then he would sing a little loud. He wouldn't know it, but, and I'd kind of say hello and this and that. And Crystal and Todd said that they had went and visited his church. And I was like, yeah, what'd you think? And they're like, we're going back.
Cool.
Brother David is amazing. And I was like, oh, so that guy's like the preacher of the church? And I went over and introduced myself, and he talked to me for 10 or 15 minutes. And so we went and tried the church, and I can't think of a time that the church service was wrapping up and I wasn't ready for it to end.
That's awesome.
And I'm not an emotional guy. And like our first service, I'm sitting there with tears in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's thousands of churches, I'm sure, like that. But if you're listening to this and you're not quite engaged in a church, find a new church.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the church. It may speak to 100 people, but if you're the one it doesn't, you need to find something to keep you engaged. So that church, J Valley Baptist Church, kind of northeast of Longview, old church, small country church.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times we may not have 50 people in there, and other
It's off a
times
smelly road, right?
Yeah. Other times it may be packed out, but the way Brother David gives the message, and I don't know, it's drawn me to that church, and that's where we've been ever since.
That's awesome.
Jasmine and I her and I have been, we've been together probably 4.5 years now, and she's a believer, and there's not a Sunday that we're going to miss if we're in town. And
that's great.
Even if I don't feel like going, she's going to make sure we're in the car going. And you got to find somewhere where you fit in and that draws you. And I give something sparked my interest to get the Bible and start reading. And fortunately, and I know it was God put Brother David coming in that gym, and somebody telling me, "Hey, go check out that."
Those are all divine appointments.
Yeah, I mean, you go to all the nice churches in Longview, and then I got to look on a map to find where this place is, because you got to go down this road and turn down this road, and it's at the end of this road, and so I went to J Valley for a little while, and prior to that, I'd been reading about baptism and the importance of it, and I don't know, in my mind, I didn't necessarily want to get baptized in a church. You read how Jesus got baptized, and John the Baptist was baptizing him in the creek or the river, and I'm like, when I get baptized, I want to get baptized in a lake and a river and a stream, like Jesus did, and I truly wanted to do that. So it meant something. It wasn't just smile for the picture, get baptized, go home. And I'd been thinking and praying on that for probably a year or so. Even before I started to go to J Valley, I knew that I wanted to be baptized outside. And it's kind of a funny story. I decided when I was going to get baptized. It was Father's Day last year. The church does a church retreat at the lake, and they stay out at Lake of the Pines for like 4 or 5 days. The whole church goes out there, and or people that can make it. And I was like, that's where I want to get baptized. And so Brother David's like, absolutely. Sunday morning after service, you and I are going in the water. And I said something to Sloan and Paul about it and invited them. And of course, it was Father's Day, so I knew a lot of friends and family couldn't make it, but that day was just about me and Christ. So I'll send you a video. Like you don't feel bad about not making it. But
Sloan sent me that video,
and I can't remember if it was Sloan or Paul, but they kind of got quiet when I told him about it. And I was like, "Hey, you still there?" And he was like, "About 2 years ago, we could tell that something started to change in your life." Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been friends with him like I met you.
Yeah. With
11, 12. I mean, 15 years ago, I probably started to deliver to Antler Works and Paul's company, Sloan's company. And they could see something starting to change, apparently. And of course, I guess they would talk to, amongst themselves. And they said, we knew 2 years ago that you weren't going to get baptized in a church. We said, watch, I guarantee you Daniel is going to want to get baptized in a pond, in a lake, in a river.
That's cool.
And it's so weird. I never said a word to him about it. And they were talking about it a year or two before I announced it. And so it was neat. And I think that Sunday, 12 people got baptized and gave their lives to Christ.
Wow.
And it was amazing.
So where were y'all staying on the lake? Because we got those Airbnbs out there.
I believe it's Alley Creek that they just rent out the whole
pavilion there.
The whole thing. The church rents it out, and then people that can make it.
Yeah.
Like Jasmine and I, we'll probably just go out early Saturday morning, stay Saturday, Sunday, and they do a fish fry, and they even do like a little fishing competition, crappie or brim fishing competition. Whoever wants to come out, and
cool.
It's a neat thing.
It's such an awesome thing whenever you get to be a part of seeing God's behind the scene work in your life, knowing that those guys are, seeing the change in you, without it being communicated, they just see it. And no doubt those guys were praying for you and lifting you up, and it's just so awesome that they, that a God, through them, God allowed you to see how he works behind the scenes.
It gave me chills when they told me. I'm like, did you really? He goes, I'm telling you, dude, we were talking about this 2 years ago.
That's crazy.
And
Sloan was so excited. He was like, man, he was like, Daniel. I was like, yeah, of course, and he was like, check this out, and he showed me that video at the gym, and he was like, you could just see joy all over his face. Yeah. So
Sloan's a gift from God.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. I'm beyond proud to call him my friend.
Yeah.
And you never,
that's a good one.
You never know who's watching you or who, like your daughter, something you were doing has impacted her now. You being a Christian man and a believer, there's a lot of people that are watching you, and they may not say anything, but they're getting something from you.
Mm-hmm.
You keep doing what you need to do and following Christ, and you'll affect more people than you know. It's 99% of them you're probably not going to know. You're not going to know who you impact.
Mm-hmm.
I came home.
Such a true statement.
It is. I came home the other night, and Jasmine, she'll watch some of the housewife shows, and she just calls it mindless trash TV. And so do I. I can't stand it. I'm like, I'm never going to watch this crap. And I'll even tell her sometimes, if you keep watching that, you're going to forget my name because it's going to fry your brain to the. And anyway, I don't know. I worked late or something the other night, we went out of town on the crane hunt in West Texas, and so I came home Sunday, and I'm like, well, did you get to watch a bunch of your TV? Did you get caught up on all the who's? And she was like, no, I just read a little bit. And she was, I messed with my Bible. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she had spent the weekend reading her Bible, and she got little tabs, when they say turn to Isaiah.
Right.
For those of us that aren't crazy familiar with the Bible, it takes you 5 minutes to find.
Yeah.
And so she put little tabs on all the pages in her Bible, and I guess I should have said something to her more about it, but I kind of, that's cool. And I turned around and walked out, and I'm like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That we have been going to church together, and just kind of seeing that your habits change. It's a Saturday night, instead of watching trash TV, you're literally labeling your Bible so you can find the book better, and it's amazing. I was very proud of her, and I need to tell her that more. But seeing her journey with Christ inspires me.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That really is. I think that's powerful. And God connected you with her for a reason. And you're seeing the refinement process take place in her life.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's taking place in your life. And then she's encouraging you, and you're encouraging her. And
us as men, as the leader of the home and stuff, your family's going to follow you. So you're a strong Christian man, and you're a believer, and it's not just saying, yes, I accept Christ. There's actions that come behind that.
That's right.
What are you doing? almost integrity, I guess they would say. Like, what are you doing when no one's looking? Are you a Christian when you're in church or when people are around or when you're praying over the meal, or, what are you doing when it's just you and God? Because that's what matters the most. It's
right.
That's
anybody
exactly
can
right.
quote scripture and sound pretty.
That's
and,
right.
There is a lot to be said about being the spiritual leader of your home. And we talk about that a lot on the podcast, and we talk about just how important our role is as men. And the statistics show it. It's there's several studies, and they all lead to the same conclusion. And at the end of the day, the studies reveal that if the father accepts Christ, if the father is the spiritual leader of the home, that there's a 90 to 95% chance that the family will fall in line, because that's the way that God designed it. And
It's a staggering number.
It's 90 to 95% in every study that I've ever read. And, I mean, thank God for all the wonderful single Christian mothers out there. However, the statistics show that it's less than 50% if mom is the spiritual leader in the home. And it's like, if mom and dad basically don't have a relationship with God and don't lead the children or the family to the Lord, it's like less than 10%. If your child is the one, it happens, and we hear stories about it happening, and but it just, again, puts it all in perspective for us men on the responsibility that we have.
Yeah. And your kids and your family can see the different you at church or on a Saturday night at home when you're mad and cussing and this and that. So it's almost hard to lead your family and expect them to do right when you're not doing right. You read in scripture, it's, the wife obey the husband. There's another side to that. And then the husband loves the church.
That's right.
Or like Christ loved the church. And so you can't expect your family to fall in line if you're not being the leader and the man of the house that you should be. And if you are, that's going to be led by forgiveness, compassion, understanding. A quote or a verse that always sticks with me is back when the lady was getting stoned. I believe that is, what is that, in John 8? And Christ says, let the first among you cast the stone that's free of sin himself. I don't know. It's got to be one of the top 10 verses to live by.
Yeah.
It's we are all sinners daily,
and we're also quick to judge somebody who's sinning, and we want to condemn them, like we're holier than thou, or,
take the plank out of your own eye.
I was talking to a friend yesterday about it, and as far as forgiveness and stuff, if you mess up and forget your wife's birthday or your anniversary, or you just have a bonehead move and mama's mad at you, all you want is to say I'm sorry and baby, forgive me. And you want forgiveness immediately. You don't want her to walk around all afternoon mad or the next day mad. And it's funny, we want forgiveness so quick, but we're slow to give it. It's almost like we want to make sure that that person knows that they did wrong. Like, we're slow to forgive, but we definitely don't want Christ to be like that, because he has to forgive us every day. Every day we sin, every day we fall short. And we got to remember that. We want forgiveness quickly. You need to give it quickly.
Amen.
And understand that people aren't going to think like you do. Their brains, we're all so different. And so somebody may tick you off about something. It doesn't mean they're doing it on purpose. Like, have compassion, slow to anger, forgive quick, and it'll change your life. And you don't really have to force that when you let God into your life, because you see he gives all that to you.
That's by design.
It's good stuff.
When we accept Christ, we immediately begin a journey to become like him.
Yeah.
It's it's designed that way.
And it's fun. It's neat. Like, in life, Christians sometimes get a bad rap, but look at where we're at right now. y'all are great guys. You're not standing on the street side holding a sign saying you're going to hell. You're truly trying to spread the word. You're genuine, and that's going to reach more people than you know. And that's what a Christian man is. It's not the you got to toe the line and be perfect, and the kids are all dressed up real nice with their hair slicked over going to church, and it's awesome being a Christian man. And I mean, life is great. What a better way to live.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised at the group that'll start to surround you, and you're probably going to lose some friends.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you have to give up on them. I mean, you need to chip away and try to bring them over to the good side, but you're going to stop hanging out with some people that you used to.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, I never considered myself a bad guy. I really didn't. There's people now that I don't quite associate with as much, and it's not a bad thing. I still talk to them, but I've just kind of had to step back from the sin and realize that I don't want to hang around that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it could just be what they talk about. Is it negative gossip, cussing, just everything's negative, bad. Hey, did you hear this? Did you hear that? Like, you got to step away from that.
That's right.
Because it'll bring you down.
It knocks the morale down for sure.
What you listen to, what you watch. I mean, you think you're just goofing off, scrolling on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and next thing you know, you're watching the reels and videos, and then you're mad and upset about something that happened 1,000 miles away, some police video or some this or some that, and you're all worked up. It ain't got nothing to do with you. Like,
right.
Mind your business, handle your circle, your family, and then it'll expand from there. Brother David always talks about you got to capture your home, first yourself, and then your home. And then from your home, your family. Then from your family to your community. And then from your community to the region. Then from the region, you go out in steps.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been impactful, and it's true.
I've always heard if you're a business owner and your company's dysfunctional, they always say you can go back to your house and your household's the same way. It's dysfunctional, and it kind of goes back to God, you and God in that relationship, right? God number one, then your family. It's really supposed to be God, your spouse, your children,
mm-hmm.
and then you got your career, your friends, and really friends, career, and it's supposed to be kind of how it the pecking order,
and those aren't going to fall in line if the husband's not following Christ like he should. There ain't no way the wife's going to be following you, or the kids.
That's right.
Or the friends, or
mm-hmm.
You have to. You toe the line, and it'll follow you.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's great. I can't think of a better way to wrap up our podcast. Man, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I mean, we do this every day. We're excited when new people come on and just help us to do what we're trying to do, which is plant seeds in people's lives. And there's no question you've done that today. Somebody's going to hear this, and they're going to get curious. They're gonna ask a question. They're gonna call their friend, mentor at the gym that might be singing the hymns in their AirPods. Something's gonna come of it, and people are gonna hear this, and they're gonna think, "Am I living for the Lord the way that I need to?" And so, man, thanks so much for coming on.
Find your church.
That's right.
If you're bored, find another one. Find your church. It's amazing what'll happen.
That's awesome. Go out and kick the day in the face, and we'll catch you on the next one.